Okay, so you know how it is, right? Omega-3s. They seem to be absolutely everywhere.
Yeah, advertised constantly.
Exactly. And you get this general feeling like, okay, they're good for you. But digging into the why and how, that can feel, well, a bit overwhelming.
Uh-huh. It's a maze sometimes. So that's really our mission in this deep dive. We want to cut through all that
To
noise.
get to the core of it.
Right. We're drawing from this really detailed explanation we have here, pulling out the crucial bits about omega-3 supplements, the benefits, basically what you actually need to know.
Think of it as your fast track. We're skipping the fluff and diving straight into the insights you can actually use.
Let's jump in. So the basics. Omega-3s, they're a type of fat. Specifically, they fall under the umbrella of polyunsaturated fatty acids.
Okay, polyunsaturated, healthy fats generally.
Generally, yes. Now, what makes an omega-3 an omega-3 versus, say, an omega-6 or an omega-9? It really just comes down to their chemical structure.
Like where a specific bond is located?
Precisely. It's about the position of a particular double bond on the fatty acid molecule. A tiny chemical detail, but it has pretty big implications for how it functions in the body.
Interesting. So structure dictates function.
You got it. And if you look back, historically, humans ate diets with a much more balanced ratio of omega-3s to omega-6s.
Okay. What changed?
Well, the modern Western diet happened. We now consume, frankly, enormous amounts of omega-6 fatty acids, mostly from processed vegetable oils, soybean oil, corn oil, that kind of thing.
Stuff that's in almost all processed foods now.
Exactly. And while, some omega-6 from whole foods like nuts can be fine, the sheer volume we get from these refined oils really tilts that balance way off.
So we're overloaded with omega-6 and often deficient in omega-3.
That's the concern for many people, yes. And that imbalance is precisely why making a conscious effort to include good sources of omega-3s becomes so, so important.
Okay, so if you're looking to boost your intake through food, where should you look?
Well, the classic answer is fatty fish. Think tuna, salmon, trout, mackerel, sardines. Excellent sources.
Right.
But there are good plant-based sources too. Flaxseed, chia seeds, walnuts. They contain a type of omega-3 called ALA.
And I've heard about algae.
Yes. Algae is actually a direct source of EPA and DHA, the same types found in fish. In fact, fish get their omega-3s from eating algae.
Ah, okay. Cutting out the middle? Fish?
Sort of, yeah. Now, moving on to supplements, because let's face it, a lot of people find them convenient.
Definitely.
Yeah,
But the supplement aisle can be confusing.
it really can. First big tip. Look for a supplement that is just omega-3. You generally don't need those combo omega-3 6-9 pills. We get plenty of omega-6 already, usually.
Okay, focus on the 3. What else?
If it's fish oil, the mercury question comes up, and it's a valid concern.
How does that work?
It's bioaccumulation. Basically, mercury in the water gets into small organisms, smaller fish eat those, bigger fish eat the smaller fish.
And the mercury concentrates up the food chain.
Exactly. So larger, longer-living predatory fish like swordfish or some types of tuna can accumulate higher levels.
So for supplements,
Look for brands that explicitly state they are purified and tested to be, ideally, 100% mercury-free. Good manufacturers will test for this.
got it. Check for purity testing. What about the dose and type?
Hugely important. You need to look at the amounts of EPA and DHA specifically. These are the two main workhorse omega-3s in the body.
EPA and DHA.
Ideally, you want to see a ratio between them that's roughly 3.2 or maybe 1.5 to 1, something in that ballpark.
3 parts EPA to 2 parts DHA approximately. Why that ratio?
Well, it often reflects the natural ratio found in many fish, and research suggests this balance is generally effective for the body. So, for example, if you pick up a bottle that says 1,000 milligram omega-3 per capsule,
Yeah.
you'd want to look at the nutrition facts and see something like maybe 600 milligrams of EPA and 400 milligrams of DHA. That's a good sign.
And what if the ratio is way off, like almost all EPA or all DHA?
Be a little cautious. Sometimes that might indicate heavy processing or a specific formulation that might not be ideal for general health, unless recommended for a very specific reason. The natural balance is often a good starting point.
Okay, that makes sense. And you mentioned 1,000 milligrams. Is that always the amount of omega-3?
Ah, great question. No, absolutely not. This is a really common point of confusion.
Right.
The big number on the front, like 1,200 milligram fish oil, usually refers to the total weight of the oil in the capsule, not the amount of actual EPA and DHA.
Oh, so you could have a big capsule with relatively little active omega-3.
Precisely. You have to turn the bottle over and read the supplement facts panel. Look for the specific milligram amounts listed for EPA and DHA and add those together. That's your actual omega-3 dose per serving.
Wow. Okay, that's a huge takeaway. Check the EPA plus DHA total.
Absolutely critical. And tied to that is the overall dose. You see these tiny capsules sometimes, maybe with only 150 milligrams or 170 milligrams of combined EPHA.
Yeah, seemed quite common.
Well, honestly, based on a lot of the research showing benefits, that's likely not enough to make a significant difference for many of the health outcomes we're about to discuss.
So what kind of dose should people be aiming for, generally?
For general health, many studies use doses where the total EPA and DHA add up to over 1.5 grams per day. That's 1,500 milligrams, sometimes significantly more for specific conditions.
1,500. Okay, so probably multiple capsules of those standard 1,000 milligram fish oil ones if they have decent EPA-DHA levels.
Often, yes. Or using a more concentrated liquid oil. The point is, don't assume one small pill is doing much. Dose matters. Quality matters.
Right, quality and quantity. Okay, so we know what to look for. Let's get into the why. Why all the fuss? What are the actual benefits?
Okay, let's run through some key areas. There's quite a list, but we'll hit the big ones. First up, vision, eye health.
Okay.
DHA in particular is a major structural component of the retina. So yeah, you often see omega-3s in supplements aimed at supporting vision.
Makes sense. Number 2.
Brain development and function. This is massive. It's absolutely critical during pregnancy and breastfeeding for the baby's developing brain and nervous system.
Crucial start in life.
Hugely. And it continues to be important throughout childhood and actually for adult brain health too. Think of these fats as essential building blocks for brain cells.
Like the raw materials for thinking.
In a structural sense, yes. Third, cardiovascular health. This is probably one of the best-known benefits.
That's heart health, right?
Yeah. As we said, Western diets are often low in omega-3s. A lot of research, including guidance from organizations like the American Heart Association, links good omega-3 intake to better heart health markers.
How does it help?
It seems to work in several ways, helping to manage inflammation, supporting healthy triglyceride levels, potentially helping with blood pressure, and just generally contributing to the overall health of blood vessels.
So quite multifaceted for the heart.
Very much so. Fourth area, mental health. This is a really fascinating and growing field of research.
Much like for mood.
Yeah, studies are exploring the potential role of omega-3s in managing conditions like depression, anxiety, even things like ADHD or hyperactivity.
How would that work?
Well, again, think structure. The brain and nervous system are incredibly rich in fats. The myelin sheath, which insulates nerve fibers and allows signals to travel quickly, that relies heavily on fatty acids.
So it's like ensuring the wiring is properly insulated.
That's a decent analogy, yeah. Ensuring the communication pathways are structurally sound. Fifth, metabolic syndrome.
That cluster of conditions, high blood sugar, bad cholesterol, etc.
Exactly. Omega-3s appear to help here by, again, fighting inflammation, but also potentially helping to regulate cholesterol levels and improve insulin sensitivity, helping your body process energy better, essentially.
Okay, tackling it from a few angles.
Right. Which leads us to number 6, inflammation control, more broadly. We've mentioned it a few times, but it's worth highlighting on its own.
Because inflammation is linked to so many chronic diseases.
Pretty much all of them, in some way. Omega-3s play a key role in modulating the body's inflammatory response. They can influence the production of signaling molecules, called eicosanoids and cytokines, shifting the balance away from pro-inflammatory ones.
So dialing down the chronic simmer of inflammation.
That's the idea. It's used for both acute inflammation, like after surgery, sometimes given intravenously in hospitals, and for chronic low-grade inflammation.
Wow, even in intensive care. Okay.
Yeah. 7th, autoimmune diseases. Things like type 1 diabetes, rheumatoid arthritis, psoriasis, lupus.
Where the immune system mistakenly attacks the body.
Correct. Because omega-3s have these anti-inflammatory and also immunomodulatory properties, meaning they can influence immune cell function. There's interest in ongoing research into whether they can help manage these conditions.
Modulating the immune response itself. Interesting.
Dementia and cognitive decline, particularly Alzheimer's and vascular dementia.
This ties back to the brain health point.
Absolutely. There's growing evidence linking higher omega-3 intake or higher blood levels with reduced risk or slower progression of dementia. Researchers like Dr. Dale Braidson or Dr. David Perlmutter.
Grain brain. Yeah.
Right. They strongly emphasize the importance of healthy fats, including omega-3s, for preserving brain function as we age.
Preventing that cognitive slide.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
9th, cancer. Now, this is complex, obviously, but there's potential benefit.
How so?
It seems to tie into several areas we've already touched on. reducing inflammation, potentially influencing metabolic pathways that cancer cells use, affecting nutrient sensors in the body, and modulating the immune system, which plays a role in fighting cancer.
And that omega-3 to omega-6 balance is probably key here too.
Very likely, yes. It's thought that a diet heavily skewed towards omega-6 might create a more pro-inflammatory environment that could potentially favor cancer growth, whereas omega-3s might counteract that. Still lots of research needed, but it's promising.
Okay, number 10.
Asthma, especially childhood asthma, but adult asthma too.
How does omega-3 help with breathing?
Again, inflammation. Asthma involves inflammation of the airways. Omega-3s may help reduce that specific inflammation. There's also this interesting idea about the connection between different mucous membranes.
Like the gut lining and the lung lining.
Exactly. Gut health, respiratory health, even skin health, like eczema, they seem interconnected. Improving the health and reducing inflammation in one area, like the gut, via things like omega-3s, might have downstream benefits for others, like the airways or skin.
The body is a whole system, not just isolated parts.
That's the emerging picture, yeah. And finally, number 11, cholesterol regulation. We touched on this with heart health and metabolic syndrome.
Right, the HDL, LDL stuff.
Yeah, omega-3s are known to help increase HDL, the good cholesterol. They also typically lower triglycerides, which is beneficial. The effect on LDL, the bad cholesterol, can vary, but importantly, they might help reduce oxidized LDL, which is particularly harmful, and potentially lower lipoprotein A, another independent risk factor for heart disease.
So it's more nuanced than just raising or lowering one number.
Definitely. It's about improving the overall lipid profile and reducing cardiovascular risk as part of a broader, healthy diet and lifestyle, of course.
Wow, okay, that is quite a list.
Yeah.
From eyes and brain to heart, metabolism, immunity, even potentially cancer and asthma. It's really fundamental stuff.
It really underscores that these aren't just optional extras. They are essential fatty acids for a reason. Our bodies can't make them efficiently. We need to get them from our diet or supplements.
So for you listening, hopefully, this deep dive gives you a much sharper picture. It's not just about knowing omega-3s are good, but understanding what to look for in a supplement, why the dose matters, and the sheer breadth of potential benefits.
Yeah, we really hope this detailed information empowers you when you're making choices. Whether it's adding more fatty fish to your diet or navigating that supplement aisle, you've got a better toolkit now.
Absolutely. And maybe just one final thought to leave you with. Considering how profoundly impactful something seemingly as simple as an omega-3 fatty acid can be across so many systems in the body, it makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other basic nutritional elements might hold surprising, perhaps overlooked, power for our overall health and well-being? Something to think about.
Definitely food for thought. We encourage you to keep exploring, keep learning, and see how this information fits into your own health picture.